Malacañang on Wednesday backs the Bureau of Immigration order for Australian nun Sister Patricia Fox to leave the Philippines because she supposedly engaged in partisan political activities. The BI forfeited Fox's missionary visa, which was not supposed to expire until September 5. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says, quote, "Investigation has been conducted and was determined that the Australian missionary violated the terms and conditions of her visa. Consequently, the same must be forfeited." The BI detained Fox on April 16 and released her nearly 24 hours later. Roque, a former human rights lawyer back then, called on the BI to apologize to Fox. Fox says she is surprised and sad over the BI decision. She says part of missionary work is to fight for human rights. Fox says, quote, "I'm still hoping for a chance to explain how I see my mission as a religious sister, and maybe the decision can be reconsidered." Critics slammed the cancellation of Fox's visa. Anak Bayan says President Rodrigo Duterte is a tyrant who cannot stomach any form of criticism. Bayan Muna Representative Carlos Zarate says Fox, while supporting human rights movements, was not engaging in partisan activities. Zarate says, quote, "It's not interference when you speak for human rights. Of course, it's different if you say vote for Juan de la Cruz. But if you speak out when, for example, a farmer or lumad is killed, that is not bad. It's not partisan." Two workers of Boracay and a tourist filed a petition challenging the 6-month closure of the world-famous island Wednesday. The petitioners are Mark Anthony Zabal, who builds sandcastles, Thiting Jacosalem, who drives tourists and workers, and Odon Banjola, a non-resident who frequents Boracay for business and pleasure. The three filed before the Supreme Court petitions for prohibition and mandamus against President Rodrigo Duterte, Executive Secretary Salvador Medjaldea, and Interior OIC Secretary Eduardo Año. They also request the High Court to issue a temporary restraining order, a preliminary injunction, and/or a status quo ante-order. Boracay will be closed to the public beginning Thursday for massive rehabilitation. The petitioners call the closure order patent abuse of power and reckless disregard of the law. They also say the closure infringes on their constitutional rights to travel and to due process. The petitioners add the respondents acted with grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or excuses of jurisdiction. They say the law restricts right to travel only if it is based on national security, public safety, or public health. The petitioners say, quote, "There is no national security, public safety, or public health situation calling for the curtailment of the right to travel." They also note there was no law passed or order signed to close Boracay. Malacañang has not declared a state of calamity over the island. Instead, they deployed police and military contingents to secure the area. Petitioners say that if closing Boracay is an exercise of police power, then the respondents do not have that authority since police power is a power of the legislative. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says the petition has no merit. Roque says the closure of Boracay will proceed on Thursday unless a TRO is issued. Rappler CEO and executive editor Maria Ressa submits a counter-affidavit to the Justice Department Wednesday to deny an accusation of cyber libel over a story published in May 2012. Ressa calls the cyber libel allegations baffling and unfounded. Ressa files to her lawyers Wednesday because she is in South Korea for the Reporters Without Borders report on the state of press freedom around the world. She appeared before DOJ prosecutors on Tuesday to swear to the truthfulness of the counter-affidavit that her lawyers were to file on her behalf. The cyber libel complaint stemmed from a 2012 Rappler article that said then Chief Justice Renato Corona used a vehicle registered under businessman Wilfredo Keng. Ressa says she cannot be accused of cyber libel because the Cybercrime Prevention Act was not yet in effect when the story was published on May 29, 2012. The cybercrime law was approved on September 12, 2012, and took effect only on October 3, 2012. The law took effect more than 4 months after the story was published. On October 9, 2012, the Supreme Court issued a 120-day temporary restraining order on the cybercrime law. The SC extended this TRO until April 22, 2014, or almost 2 years after the story was published. The Rappler article on Keng was updated on February 19, 2014, when the TRO was still in effect. The Consultative Committee is eyeing the creation of 17 federated regions in the National Capital Region on the proposed shift to federalism. CONCOM member Edmond Tayao says this would provide better perspective on how to merge regions later on or how to strengthen existing regions. The 17 federated regions outside NCR include the present regions plus the Negros Island region, recently abolished by President Rodrigo Duterte. Tayao says the proposal is politically feasible because no one will feel threatened that their powers and functions are suddenly clipped. There will also be opt-in or opt-out provisions, which will allow provinces to identify which federated region they will join based on proximity and political consolidation. A watchdog says press freedom around the world is under threat from a triple whammy of United States President Donald Trump, Russia, and China's bid to crush all dissent. Reporters Without Borders, or RSF, in its annual report, warns a climate of hatred and animosity towards journalists, combined with growing attempts to control the media, pose a threat to democracies. It says reporters were the target of a growing wave of authoritarianism, with leaders whipping up hostility against them. The group accuses the world's three superpowers, the US, China, and Russia, of leading the charge against press freedom. RSF says Trump regularly launches personal attacks on reporters, while Beijing exports its media control model to strangle dissent elsewhere in Asia. It also says the slide towards strongman and populist politics in Europe is being stoked by Moscow. RSF says hostility towards the media is no longer confined to authoritarian countries such as Turkey and Egypt, but was poisoning the political atmosphere in some of the great democracies. It also cites India's Narendra Modi and the Philippines' Rodrigo Duterte as democratically elected leaders who see the media as an adversary to which they openly display their aversion.